Hello and welcome to another episode of Launchcast, the Launchcode podcast. My name is Mikhil and I work with the marketing team here at Launchcode. Just a few days ago, our team member Barbara started talking about the Jetsons, the American animated sitcom from the 1960s. George Jetson, his wife, his two kids, they lived in 2062. He was 40 years old then, so which means he would have been born somewhere around now. Lived in automated homes, had a flying car, had a housekeeper, robotic housekeeper named Rosie who took care of everything. We've come a long way from 60 years ago when that show was built. Robots or robotics is not as caricaturish as it was then. Proof of that are our guests. They're part of a robotics team. They build robots, sometimes for competitions, sometimes for fun, sometimes just because why not? So on the other side, let's talk to them. With me are members of the 4421 Forge Robotics team, Abdullah, John, YJ as we call him here, and Amelie. Welcome to Launchcast.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Let's start with the basics. What got you into robotics?
So growing up, I was always interested in how things worked, such as cars, how they drive, phones, how they work, right? And yeah, I was always interested in like what's inside of them, what makes them do what they do. And so my parents, they started buying me these Lego sets, and I would start building with those Legos until one day they bought me a Lego Mindstorms kit.
Okay.
And Lego Mindstorms is basically Lego's version of a robotics kit. And so I built my first robot with that, and yeah, it was amazing. So then, a few years later, my school organized an FLL team, a first Lego League robotics team, and I was just mind blown by the fact that a robotics competition could exist. And so I signed up, and the rest is history.
Rest is history. What about you, John?
Yeah, so I've really always been into technology and stuff like that. So when I was a kid, when the furnace breaks or whatever, I'd always like to go down there and see if you could fix it with my dad and stuff like that, and replace light fixtures when they blow up or whatever. I'd mess around with the computer too. I always liked fixing that whenever it goes wrong or whatever, when my parents needed help with it or my sister. Would also program the VCR to record shows at the right time.
Those were the days. Yeah.
The fun days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was in junior high, there was an option that was like technology in the world or something. And one day they brought out the Lego Mindstorms kits, which were also used in FLL. And there was a teacher in junior high that signed us up for FLL, the first Lego League. And we competed a few times there. Then when I graduated junior high and went into high school, there was a team there, which was 4334, and I joined it because I enjoyed FLL so much.
Yeah, I mean, most kids would look for music, playing guitars and playing drums, and you decided to tinker around with machines, eh? What about you, Amelie?
Yeah, I've always liked taking apart stuff to see how it works. Like as a kid, I would always take apart whatever toys I had to see how it works. And, always fascinated how bicycles, cars, machines, stuff like that work. Pause there, and also, yeah, once I got into middle school, I saw one of those Lego Mindstorms robotics kits. I thought they were really cool and I had to try them. And so, I got one and I played around with it. I thought it was super cool. And then I learned about first Lego League, that people are actually competing with these robotics kits that I had at home. And then I saw first robotics competition. I thought that was so cool, but I'm like, oh, but I'm way too young to participate in that. And so I kind of just waited a bit and I kept tinkering with robotics until I was old enough to join a competition and join a team for first robotics competition. I don't know why I didn't know First Tech Challenge was a thing.
No one knows First Tech Challenge is a thing.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Now when I think about it, taking about things, we as kids always did that, right? At least I'd like to believe. But you guys made almost like a passion profession out of it, doing something about it. What's it about building robots that you actually like? What's it about the process that you like? Is it that you're creating something out of nothing? Is it something that
Yeah, it's really, for me, it's just the evolution from idea to actual thing that works and does things that you want it to. It's very, very satisfying and, what's the word? Rewarding to see an idea that you had come to reality.
right? You know, in this age of engineering, innovation, and inventions, STEM education is getting a lot of focus, uh, and schools are focusing on STEM education as part of formal education. Um, do you think robotics um, complements that formal education of yours, or do you think it's just an escape for you uh, from the monotonies of school?
It's definitely an escape because, like, growing up, I hate school. Having to sit down in class, listen to the teacher, and then the assignments. You had to complete an assignment by following a strict set of rules. The thing about robotics is that there's a lot of creativity involved. You can do whatever you want, but as long as you reach the goal, you're good.
Yeah, I don't want to be the teacher who's watching this podcast. Not sure I want to do that.
I do dislike school a lot. And yeah, not just the assignments, but it's like nothing's ever cut and dried done in robotics. Even after we're done the season, we're still actively working to improve. We're always trying to build the robot better, even after the competitions are over, after the season is over. It's not just you make one thing, in school, you do your project, and then you're done your project and then you throw it away never to be seen again. It's like you're working on something through the whole year. You're planning it, you're building it, you're prototyping it, you're adding on to it, and you're just continuously improving up and up and up.
But I'm assuming some sort of that STEM education in school helps.
Oh, for
you know,
sure.
Just trying to get the basics right.
Yeah.
And,
It's also like realizing that those concepts you learn in school actually have a use in real life.
right.
Because, you do so many Sally got on the train at 3 p.m. and Joe at 4 and they're going different speeds. When do they meet at the same place or whatever? It gets kind of boring. But when you actually build something that does something according to those principles, it makes it a lot more clear and you understand it more.
It's almost like a practical
Yeah.
application of what you learned, of the theory you learned in schools. And then winning helps. You guys won the Canadian Pacific Regional, right? And winning definitely helps. Um, how's that? I mean, is that a motivation? Is that something? It's just, or is it just the fun that's the motivation?
To me, it's just the fun that's the motivation. I'm just happy if I make something that works. I don't care about winning in the competitions and stuff. If it works, I'm the happiest man alive.
I like this guy. He has some very extreme views. Whether it's about school, whether it's about winning. I really like this guy. Is winning a motivation?
As nice as winning is, it is really just kind of about making the robot, and if it works at the end of the day, it's a miracle. Not a miracle, but it's nice. But it definitely is good to when you get more hyped, and it's just good because I think the best part about winning the Canadian Pacifics was getting to go to Houston, because we get to see some of the best teams in the world. You get to see other robots that are just amazing. It's probably the most exciting part, just seeing other robots and going other places and stuff. And we get to continue to work on our robot. And
A thing or two about winning? I'm sure you
Yeah.
must know.
It certainly provides some amount of motivation to do it again and prove that you're good at what you do. But also just participating in the competition is a great experience.
It's also kind of adulting, right? When winning becomes a motivation, and these guys are just talking about just having fun. It's part of adulting, I guess, at some level. But talking about competitions and talking about going to these competitions, and like Amelie said about watching other teams, have you ever had like a fan moment with some of the other teams that are out there? Because I'm pretty sure they're bigger teams, backed by almost unlimited amount of resources.
Yeah, definitely. So there are these teams, they like paint all their parts, make these beautiful robots, LEDs and everything. And then there are teams that come up with like the most creative ideas possible. So like this year, for example, one of the challenges was to get the robots to do monkey bars,
Okay.
right? And the idea was the robot has to reach a certain height without exceeding a height limit.
Okay.
Now, this one team decided, let's not do the monkey bars. Let's have a robot straight up jump from the ground and grab onto that last bar.
I don't want to do that. Forget about the robot.
And so we got to see that robot in Houston, and like we got the opportunity to discuss with the team how they did it, what their ideas were, and yeah, it was amazing.
Did they part with their secrets?
No.
No, they were very open in sharing like their design process and such. And yeah,
But I'm sure, I mean, looking at these guys building these robots and things, there must be that one pivotal moment in your lives where you guys built something, and you guys built something maybe in your backyard, in your bedroom, I don't know. And I was like, oh, holy, this was fun.
I don't know. Probably just the first time I built something with Lego Mindstorms and actually got it moving and it actually worked. And also program Scratch, using that for the first time. Probably like program's been around for 10 years now, which is crazy, but just the first time you program something and you see it work and you're like, "Oh wow, I made that,"
Right.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had a Lego Mindstorms kit, and you see the Roomba commercial on TV or whatever, and you want one of those because it's cool. So I tried to build one of those out of the Lego Mindstorms with I had a Swiffer front on it, so it would Swiffer your house, and when it hit a wall, it would turn the other way and go forward and stuff like that. So
Never spent on vacuum cleaners, did you?
no, we've sold our vacuum cleaner long ago.
What about you, Abdullah?
yeah, I saw a Roomba ad once, and I was like, that is amazing. A vacuum that can clean an entire house on its own. And yeah, I wanted to research that, like, how does it do that? And so yeah, I went to the internet and was blown away by its workings.
I almost half expected him to say, "Oh, you know what? I dug into a Roomba." I was like, "All right, that would have been like a really expensive look-in." Technology, like some people use it for convenience, some use it for entertainment, some, but the way you guys are talking, and the more I listen to you guys talk about it, I mean, you guys have actually used technology for, learning, for growth, for even personal development. Do you think being in the robotics team has helped you grow personally?
It definitely has. Like, I have developed many teamwork and leadership skills by being on this team, because we are required to work with like a team of like 30 plus students, and it's a lot. So being able to organize ourselves, everyone ends up playing a big role and supporting each other. And yeah.
Yeah, me too, definitely. Like working with everyone on the team and, making sure things are done on time and we do things right and safely, and just even working in the shop with all the different tools and, all the different things that you have to wire up and build and design. You learn both practical skills for like technical things like, working with power tools, but then you also learn working on a team with other people and cooperating and stuff like that. And it's just very helpful and just, kind of job preparation skills, I guess I'd say.
Um, what's exactly your role on the robotics team?
I mostly do mechanics, so I fabricate a lot of stuff, so that's like cutting things, drilling holes, stuff like that, and then building whatever kind of thing we're trying to make at the time, whether it be like an arm or the robot's chassis, and then, keeping those working and troubleshooting when things go wrong, because they inevitably do.
Right. What about you?
So I help in almost everything but programming. So like I help design the robot virtually using a CAD software. I help with Amelie build the robots, like fabricate the parts, put them all together, wire everything up. And I'm also on the drive team, so I'm one of the two people who, at competitions, are driving the robots when competing.
And people are talking into your ears, "Don't do this, don't do that," that's what you're doing. And you're like, "Shut up. I know what I'm doing. You went from being YJ, from being a part of the robotics team member, and now you're a mentor. Um, that transition must be quite something, actually, for you.
Yeah, it for me it was really just I never really left.
Okay.
You know, you graduate and then I just kept showing up and I helped kids with the programming and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. So, but is there what do you find most satisfying? Building it or supervising all these guys?
Well, it's both. So, it's great. I still really enjoy being part of the process and building the robot and going to competitions and stuff. That's still a great part of it.
Uh-huh.
But also like I owe the start of my career to being on the team and the people I met there, and my job here is a direct result of knowing people from the team. So uh, being able to help other kids kind of find that path to a potential career is satisfying.
And if I haven't mentioned this before, YJ, aka John Brandt, actually works at Launchcode with and he's a very, very integral part of our team. Um, During our last podcast with Louis and Edgar, who were part of the board at Forge Robotics, um, when we had that conversation with them, what really stood out for me was when they kind of said that it's not about kids building robots, but it's helping build and develop kids using robots. You know, it's a very different way of looking at it. It. I'm assuming it teaches you to be resourceful. It teaches you, like you said, your leadership skills and working with teams and things like that. And when you look at all these teams that have come with almost unlimited amount of resources, into competitions, um, do you take it as a challenge, or you're like daunted by the whole?
I took it as an add-on challenge, like, we got limited resources, let's build the best robot we can with those limited resources, and still be able to compete with these high-end teams.
Yeah, exactly. When you've got tight constraints for materials and time and whatnot, it's more of a challenge, but it's kind of a good challenge because we want to make our robot the best we can, and when it's a success and it can compete with these robots that have been worked on for months and they have hundreds and hundreds of team members to work on them and stuff. It's just adds to that feeling of accomplishment because, you know, the way that we built our robot, even though we didn't have as much time or as much resources, we still built a really solid robot.
I'm assuming you're also going to be, graduating from the program, right? You guys, and so do you kind of take notes from YJ or anybody from any of the mentors? Like, what are you going to leave behind for, think about it. I'm talking about legacy at this age, which is mind-boggling, for some. But what do you think you guys are going to leave behind for the next batch that's going to come in?
I'm going to try to leave behind as much knowledge and as possible, so like share with them as much of my experience, because the idea is I want them to be successful even after I leave, right? And so, yeah, I'm just going to share with them my experiences, what we did wrong, and they could do better after that.
Yeah, like Abdullah said, I want the team to succeed, like outside of me, and I want to teach the team member, like the younger team members, more about just as much as I possibly can, so the team can keep learning and keep succeeding, and that build upon that knowledge, and then that makes more knowledge, and then more knowledge goes down, and just keeps people on the team just learning constantly, because that's what it's all about really. It's just you're learning how to do it. It's always learning, even no matter how long you're doing it, really.
Yeah, and even if it's outside the realms of like formal education or school, as long as you're learning, that's not bad at all. Are there any robots that you've seen, that you've built, that has really stayed with you? In whether it's in your competitions, whether it's something that you built in your back room, whether it's have there been any robots that have really stayed with you? Like, maybe one of those blingy ones that you saw some of these big teams kind of build. I don't know.
I would say the first robot I built on the team, it was 3 years ago, I think, and it was a similar challenge to this year's, where the robot had to pick up these small balls and shoot them into a target.
Okay.
And well, it was my first like big robot I've ever built. And to some other people who are in the competition, they would have looked at it and been like, "Oh, that's just another robot." For me, I feel very proud of that, because it's like I've never built something this big and this like nice, I guess. And yeah.
Yeah, same. The first robot I ever built, so it would have been. I wasn't on this team, but I was on a different team in the same competition, and just building the first robot. It wasn't necessarily the greatest robot, but it was just amazing to sit there and look at it and be like, I helped build that, I helped make that, and it's working. It's just amazing. And yeah, sure, it wasn't amazing, it wasn't phenomenal, but it was something that we made and we designed, and it was working, and it was just felt really accomplished from doing that.
What about you, IJ?
Yeah, as always, like the first robot you build on the
Never
team
forget the
is
first one,
kind
do
of
you?
special. Yeah, would have been 4334 at the time, but also the other robots that they're making in industry, like the Boston Dynamics dog, like that thing's pretty insane.
Yeah, the whole actual natural movements. that
Yeah,
sort of
like, it
thing,
looks pretty lifelike.
Yeah.
You can go upstairs and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, how do you even do that? But like, there's a pretty direct link from first to that. Like, it's all motors and software at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm given how fast technology evolves, I'm pretty sure, like, from your time to their time, you'll be like, oh, you know what, we used to do like this back in our day, and for all you're only talking about 4 years ago or 5 years ago. That's crazy about technology and evolution, right? But thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for this conversation, and it really I hope it kind of helps people, across age groups, across genders, across schools, across geographies. I hope it inspires kids and their parents to kind of allow robotics to grow, whether in their, allowing their kids to get into their robotics, or kids themselves getting inspired to get into robotics. I really hope that we've played a small little part in doing that. For anybody who would want to get involved with 4421, do you have a message? How can they collaborate? What can they do about it? Is there something that you would like to share?
Yeah, well, sponsorship and donations are always needed and appreciated. But also, if you have technical skills or anything like that, even marketing, finances, like, it's almost like a small company that we run. So any skill that the company would want, if you want to volunteer and help some kids out, then I'm sure we could find a place for you.
Yeah, I can always tag along and do nothing. But I think it would be fun to come to these robotics competitions and see what people have built and what people can do with robots. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot once again. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you guys and to have you over today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, the pleasure is all ours. That's it for today's episode of Launchcast. Please do like this video, leave your comment and feedback. Share this video with anyone who would be interested in robotics, STEM education, or technology in general. Do follow Launchcode and 4421 Forge Robotics on other social media platforms. The links are in the description. And we keep producing content like this podcast regularly. So do subscribe to the Launchcode channel on YouTube. Until next time.